What is up, everybody? Ryan Sprague here, coming at you live with a solo cast for this week's episode. You know, it's funny, I don't do solo casts that often. I'm sure you guys have noticed that. But I've been feeling more called to them recently. You know, as a projector in human design, I'm a 5-1 projector. And as a projector in human design, you know, I really benefit from getting invited into things, which is why conversations with other people work so well for me. But there's been a lot of things on my mind recently, a lot of things in my heart, a lot of really good things. And I wanted to share some of those things with you guys. You know, it'll never get different, or it'll never feel the same. Or how do I want to put this? It'll never feel right really having to stare into a camera like I do with SoloCast. It's also one of the things I love about podding with guests. But, you know, I had a couple different episodes that I could have put out this week, but I was like, you know, I got so much epic shit going on that I would love to share with you guys, because again, for those that have really followed my journey and, you know, been listening to the pod for a while, you guys know I wasn't born with a silver spoon in my mouth or something. Like, this is all just as wild for me as it is for anyone that I get to do this. And so many of you guys tune every week and ask me questions. And then we get to do awesome things like we did this past weekend at the Breathe With Cannabis retreat, where I get to come and meet a lot of you guys in person. You know, a lot of the people there were like, oh, I've been listening to your podcast for years. I'm like, wow, that's like really wild to hear. And, you know, guilty as charged, if you say, but sometimes I don't stop to actually think about those things. And, you know, think about the idea that, like I said at the retreat, not long ago, this was all just a dream for me. You know, about 6 years ago, I decided to go out on my own and do the things I'm doing now. You guys have heard my story. I won't go into the whole thing, but, you know, there was a lot of challenge that came along with that, because for all these new things I wanted to do, to be a podcaster, to be a coach, to, you know, do everything I'm doing now, which I had no idea I'd be doing with cannabis and everything, you know, to do all that stuff, I had to become a more refined version of myself. I didn't have to become someone I wasn't already, because it was just covered over with a lot of nonsense. And I know I've mentioned that idea to you guys before, that, you know, the dining room table analogy. It's not that the dining room table is not there anymore. It's just that it's so covered with junk that sometimes you forget there's a dining room table in there at all. And you end up thinking like, oh man, maybe I need to buy a new table. When in reality, no, you just got to clean the old one. And that's really what I went through in the process of identity alchemy, and, you know, why I'm so grateful I get to bring others through that process. I had a great appointment this morning with a gentleman. I won't mention any of the details, of course, but it was absolutely amazing. And it just really like allowed me to see like, wow, I'm bringing in these really rad people. I mean, because again, when you put yourself out there, and those of you that also do something similar to this, putting yourself out into the world, you know, you can attract really whatever. But, you know, again, as the saying goes, as within, so without. You attract what you are, not what you want. And so it's been really amazing to see over the course of the last 5 or 6 years who I've been bringing in, who's been resonating with the message, because some of these people end up my literal best friends. It's actually really amazing. I mean, from Mark England to Adam Chin, I was just hanging with him this weekend. One of my one-on-one clients, Dave Ray, has become a fast best friend. Me, him, and Adam Chin, I swear to God, are the three goofballs, the three tripods of, or the three legs of the tripod of goofballness. And we have so much fun together. And, you know, again, like I did not foresee that coming from this. Like I knew I was going to have new experiences, and I hoped I got to meet some really cool people, but I never expected I would meet new best friends. Like a lot of them. I mean, so many of the people I have on the show, guys, are like my personal best friends that at one point I had never met before. I hopped on a call with them, that someone else connected me to them, and then all of a sudden I'm like, holy cow, I think we just got bunk bed status. And so, you know, it's really amazing. I mean, a lot of the guests I've had on recently, you know, Adam Schell, Cal Callahan, Brandon Thomas from Expanding Reality. I mean, these guys are just absolutely epic human beings. And the women I've had on too are absolutely amazing. I just happened to mention 3 men there, but, you know, from Brie Divine to just so many people. You know, of course, Rachel, having her on always just shocks me at how amazing she is. And, you know, that's really one of the things I feel most grateful for that I get to do now is as a person with a very, 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 very small amount of influence in the world, but still a small amount, right? It's an amount. I get to play the connector role, which is really like, you know, for those that know me personally, this is the thing that comes the most effortless to me, is just connection. You know, like Rachel and I go through this a lot with like our personal gifts that we come into this lifetime with, and how she would say it is it's within our Jupiter placement. Astrologers out there, I might have got that wrong, but something to do with Jupiter, whether it's the placement or not, I don't know. But something about our Jupiter basically articulates what we come into this world being so good at that we never even have to think about it. And because of that, we may not see ourselves being good at it because it just comes so naturally that we just think everyone else does. And mine is definitely connection, 100%. We were actually going through this the other day. And when I was reading mine, I was like, no shit. And this is something I've obviously got validated in me quite a few times from other people around me that have helped me tune into this aspect of me. But that's one of the things I'm most grateful on is that, for instance, I can send out emails to my list, to a lot of you guys, about Rachel or about another amazing friend I have, and they can share emails about me to their list. And like that to me is really everything in life. And I think it's really cool as well that right now, astrologically, that really is the vibe. The vibe is two things that I think are so awesome right now, which is authenticity and collaboration over competition. Because for me, I never got in this to whatever this is, whatever I'm calling this. I never got in this to compete with anyone because I understand that each person is an expert at being themselves. And so even though I might be around other coaches, I've never felt in competition with any of them because at the end of the day, I want to play in the sandbox with everyone. My favorite time in kindergarten was show and tell. We get to all show each other stuff and then play with each other's toys. And that's what a lot of these retreat experiences are like. Even though people are coming to our retreat, let's say, and they're attendees, a lot of them have incredible gifts. All of them have incredible gifts. And a lot of them are fully expressing those gifts. And so one of the amazing things is at the retreat, we'll have a lot of these individuals that come, if they're open to it, host their own little workshop. We had my good friend Jen Callower, shout out to Jen, doing yoga. Her husband, Pete, one of my homies. I love Pete. He ended up scouting for a hike for us to do one day. And so it's really this collaborative effort, right? Like, yes, there are attendees and we're hosting the retreat. We have the structure, et cetera. But we know, because I was one of those guys. Like, I go to retreats. I used to go to a lot more retreats. And so I was that guy there that was coming to a retreat, but I also had some stuff I wanted to share. And I remember the feeling it felt like when, the first retreat that I went to, Chris Marhefka was like, hey, man, if you got something to share, we can schedule it in. Like, I want everyone here to feel like if they have something to share, they have a place to do it. And I just thought that was so fucking cool. I was like, man, this is exactly what I want out of life. Because we all understand that we're not competing. We're all so individual that there literally is no competition. Plus the fact there's 8 billion people on the planet. And to be honest, not everyone's going to like me. So if I'm out there competing with everyone as if I'm holier than thou, well, really what I'm doing is, first of all, I'm just shooting myself in the foot and looking like an asshole. But second of all, maybe I have a friend, maybe I meet a client, let's say, or I meet someone looking to work with me. And I think they're awesome, but I can just tell they're not really going to be the best ideal client for me. And I'm not going to be the best ideal coach for them. Well, if I'm in competition with everyone, I'm just going to try to take that client on and make more money and stack more bread. But if I'm in a collaborative way, I might be like, hey, you know what? You'd really work good with this person. Let me introduce you to them. And that's what our network all does for each other. I have so many different coaches and different podcasters and whatnot. And, again, at the end of the day, we're all sharing this stuff with each other. Because at the end of the day, if we are infinite beings, what feels more like realizing that infinite nature? Does it be trying to control everything feel like you're really tuning into your infiniteness? Or does allowing yourself to realize, hey, you know what? Maybe the people that are coming to me because they trust me to not just take them in and be like, yeah, you're my client, or yeah, let's get you on the podcast or whatever. But they trust me because they can tell that I can help them if I'm not the right person for them. Like, I also know the other people that may be really good for them. And so these are just all things I've been tuning into, guys, and just really taking some time and space to slow down and really tune into the fact that holy shit, this is all really happening. I still have to pinch myself every fucking day when someone reaches out to me and is like, hey, I heard you on Aubrey Marcus. Guys, that is still crazy to me that I went on Aubrey Marcus. And I'm actually going back on. You guys are the first ones to hear about this publicly. But I'm going back on November 19th. I don't know when it will be released, but I'm going down to see Aubrey again. It's going to be a blast. I'm so pumped. And that episode is shot to number 1. It's his most popular episode, I think, last I checked, that he had ever done. And I was just happy to be there. I was terrified, guys. At the end of the day, here I am, this kid that was watching Aubrey Marcus in my bedroom, in my mom's house for years, being like, I love what this guy's doing. And then boom, there I am just on the show. And he's asking me questions. And I'm like, oh my God. So it's pretty wild, and I will say that I think for anyone who has had a dream and gone out there and really put their best foot forward to accomplish it, no one really talks about how strange it can be when those goals start getting met. One of the things I've, kind of gone through is, realizing just how sped up I've been throughout my life. Business is nothing if not a spiritual awareness exercise. And, times like that where I went on this huge podcast, like completed this huge goal, it was kind of just like, okay, just keep on churning, keep your head down, keep getting back to DMs, making your posts, sending emails out, doing podcasts. It's kind of hard to like pop your head up sometimes and be like, whoa, let me like look around and see how different my life looks. And that's really what's been happening recently. And I think it's perfect timing for fall coming in. Just in the last year, there's been so much amazing stuff. Rachel and I got to go to Italy back in May. That was her dream trip, and being able to help her do that, just means the world to me. And, it's really been interesting recently how much I've realized how simple I want my life to be. There was a time where I definitely kind of got excited at the idea of like a really fast-paced, crazy life. And there are parts, I'm an Aries, for God's sakes. Like, I like intensity. And I don't know whether it's fall. I don't know whether or not it's aging. I'm 34 now. It doesn't seem that old. But there's been just something recently where I'm like, man, dude, like these nights just hanging in my apartment with Rachel. We light a fire in the wood stove. We're hanging out with our dog. I'm playing guitar. We're ripping some bags. We're going over our day. Because that's really one of the biggest things that my relationship with cannabis has evolved into recently is, this kind of like taking account of my day. I'd done this a lot in my past years, and I went through like a very strict time of only connecting on weekends. And then much recently, it's been much more flowy. I took about a 6 or 7 week break back in April to May. Every year, I feel like I'm taking a break right when 420 happens. So funny. Got to be a rebel, of course, and not smoke on 420. But it's been very interesting, just realizing that, wow, like this way of living life simply, of just having a set bedtime, not traveling as much, even though I'm talking about traveling a lot right now. But, it's really enjoyable, and I think I mentioned in my last solo cast how I've been getting back into playing music, and just all this like inner child zest for life, newness to life has been coming out of me. And I don't really care what it means because it just feels so awesome. And you guys have been a big part of that. The messages I get from you guys, the DMs I get from you guys, the in-person meetups. When I was at High Vibe, I ran into a couple listeners. It's just like that makes it all worth it for me. I'll tell you guys something that I was mentioning recently to my buddy Adam Chin, because we were talking about, just retreats and pretty much everything we're talking about now, because Adam plays this role as well with marketing in Enlifted. And that was one of my first kind of like exposés into, holy shit, this can be real. The vision I had for my life, my whole life, of bringing people together, being able to tune out the distractions of the world, being able to enhance our ability to feel love and to feel joy and to feel all of our emotions, that is really possible. And when I was 13, my dad was an amazing guy. You guys have heard me talk about him before. But one of his rituals was on Friday night, he would go to Best Buy. I don't know if these stores are regional. So for anyone who's listening from a different part of the country, just think Walmart or something like that. But he would go there and just buy pretty much any movie that came out. My dad was doing very well for about 5 years before the recession hit in 2008. And so he would just, he wasn't exactly the best of money, but we did have a lot of fun. And he would go to Best Buy and just buy all these new DVDs, just random movies. And I didn't really appreciate this until after he had passed, just like what a movie buff he was and how many movies I just went in and grabbed that changed my life. And so he would buy these movies, and, a lot of them he'd be like, that one was weird. And literally, my mom's house still, we have this megalithic DVD collection, like thousands and thousands of DVDs. And when I was 13, my typical ritual would be on like a Saturday morning, if it was winter out or raining or whatever, I'd just walk in, I'd, grab a movie. My next door neighbors would come over and we'd hang out and just eat chips and salsa and Sour Patch Kids and whatever else. And so one time I found this movie called Groove. And it was this movie that had won the Sundance Film Festival in 2001. And it was all about the San Francisco rave scene in the late 90s. And I remember as a 13-year-old being obsessed. I didn't know what the scene was. I didn't know what the music was, but I was obsessed. And I had heard electronic music once before in the race war scene in Fast and Furious. So for anyone who's seen Fast and Furious, you know what I'm talking about. So when I heard this music, I'm like, oh my God. And I was like addicted to it, but I couldn't find, again, this is like, 20 years ago, basically, 21 years ago. And so, again, LimeWire was just coming out, but it really wasn't like it was. Napster had been out, but regardless, I couldn't really find what this type of music was. But I was obsessed with the movie. And I remember I watched it, pretty much every year at least. We went through it for a while. It's a strange movie, okay? If you guys watch it, you might be like, what the fuck was Ryan saying? But you'll get the idea if you watch it all the way to the end. And I may spoil a little bit for you, okay? Because I'm telling the story, so I kind of have to for context. But then about 5 years later, this is actually going to be a funny story. I met a woman through online dating. And this is like back, guys, before OkCupid or apps or anything. This was on a website called Vampire Freaks. All right. I was a metalhead in high school. And I met this girl on there and fell madly in love with her. And the first time she came over my parents' house at the time, we watched Groove together. And she loved it too. And I remember being like, oh my God, this is amazing. But it wasn't until, I don't know, probably a couple of years ago, maybe last year, that I really realized, holy shit, I manifested the exact same role as the guy in the movie plays. Because this movie takes place, pretty much everyone's getting ready for one of these parties. Now, if you know anything about the rave scene back in the 90s, it wasn't like it was today. You don't just hop on Instagram and buy a ticket on Eventbrite or whatever. It was illegal. They would essentially set up these illegal raves in warehouses that were abandoned, and you'd have to go on an AOL chat room, and get invited by someone. And then you'd find like, okay, go to this parking lot. And so everyone would go to this parking lot. There'd be a guy there kind of like checking out the vibe of each person that comes through. And if the guy liked your vibe, he might tell you directions to the next parking lot. And so then you get directions to the next parking lot. And then that guy would check your vibe, or that girl would check your vibe. And you'd have to like pass like 3 or 4 of these checks before you finally be like, okay, here's how you get to the actual party. And it'd be written on paper and stuff. It was really cool. It was kind of like, I don't know, some kind of like trivia game or something like that, right? In real time. And so it was a big event, all right? And so this movie starts out with these different people, right? Different people that are going to this same event, hearing about the party. Some of them are like candy kid ravers, right? They go to everyone. But some of them have actually never been to a rave before. Like one of the main characters' brothers works in like the IT field. And again, this is like 90s, so it was different back then. But he was writing some ridiculously boring type book or whatever about coding or something like that. But his younger brother was trying to get him to come because he was going to marry his girlfriend Harmony, who he'd been dating 2 months, at this rave. And his older brother, more logical, is like, listen, man, are you sure? Sure about that? You want to do that? You've only known this girl for 2 months. And his little brother's like, dude, I love her, man. It doesn't matter. Time's an illusion. It's a construct. I don't care. I'm doing it. So his brother's like reluctantly like, okay, I guess I'll go to this weird party you want me to go to. And so then it also, one of the people that it's following is the guy who sets these all up. So the guy that actually finds the warehouses, risks his freedom, all this stuff. And so it's following all these people. And long story short, they have the party. There's a lot of amazing stuff that happens, and it changes everyone there's life in different ways. Okay. And they're not all positive either. All right. So that's why I really like this movie, because it's a pretty good look at actually what the rave scene is, in my opinion, having gone to plenty of raves myself. So by the end of the movie, I actually won't spoil that part, but at the very end of the movie, there's like kind of like the after party. Now, what the after party is, and why I really like this, is that it doesn't show, like, yes, there's drugs being used and things like that, but you can tell the people that are really the core people in this movie, yeah, they may take drugs and go there, but they're there for the community, and you can tell. So the next morning, everyone's like eating oranges together, hanging out. Everyone's just helping each other if they have like, a headache or whatever, massage, and just everyone's hanging out. And this guy walks up to the main guy who creates these parties, who's got like the perfect bleach blonde hair, everything. It's so 90s. And he says, hey, man, I got to ask you, like, why do you do all this? Like, why do you put your like freedom on the line? Because the cops end up coming, who the cop is played by Nick Offerman, Ron Swanson. And again, they're going through all this hassle and whatever. And he's like, dude, why do you do it, man? Why do you do all this? And the guy looks at him and just says, the nod. And he's like, the nod? What do you mean the nod? And he's like, yeah, man, at least once every party, someone comes up to me and says, hey, man, I really needed this. Thank you. And they give me the nod. That's why I do it. And in that moment, I remember as a kid, I was like, I just felt like that's all I want to do. Like, I really just want to be a vibrational accelerator for other people. I want to be the full battery charge pack that when other people are feeling a little low in their battery, maybe they're in a corporate job and they're just not feeling fulfilled, but they don't know how to get out of it. Or maybe they're in a marriage and they're not really sure if it's the right marriage or how to fix the marriage, and they're kind of feeling overwhelmed. They can come hang out, come do a retreat, come play some can jam with me, come do whatever it is, come to a Breathe With Cannabis event, and leave feeling more childlike, leave feeling with their battery charged, And that for me is all I'm doing this for. Like, if I have that, great. Again, we all got bills to pay and things like that. But honestly, like a big part of what I've been realizing is actually my life is literally perfect already. Like I literally can't dream of making it better. Sure, material things, whatever, those don't actually exist. Like cool, like they're great bonuses, I guess. But without what I already have, they would mean jack shit to me. And so a big part of what I've been tuning into, and we were talking about this at the retreat, is just like how fucking abundant I already am. And what I want you guys to do, if you feel called, is to tune in right now and ask yourself, where have I not been realizing I'm so fucking abundant already? Because a lot of times I know for me, I focused on this thing called money, right? I was like, hey, I want to be abundant in money. And for good reasons, right? I want to help the planet. I want to make sure I don't have to, do what I don't want to do, yada, yada, whatever. But if you really think about it, does money really matter? Like, sure, yes, you got to have enough to pay rent and yada, yada. But like, does having $10 million versus having like, say, $5,000 a month, does it really make that big of a difference? Like over time? Like at first, sure, you can distract the shit out of yourself with money. All right. You can convince yourself it's making you happier. You can go on dopamine excursions where you buy all this shit. But once that wears off, let's say you're 2-3 years into having a lot of money. Does it really matter that much? If you don't have friends around you that love you, if you don't have a partner that loves you, let's say, if you don't have people and a mission that makes you feel alive every day, if you're not being of service, does the fucking material shit really even matter? It really doesn't. And so one of the things we were talking about at the retreat is thank fucking God. Thank God I was not born with a lot of money. And thank God I didn't win a lot of money on a scratch ticket. And thank God I didn't have one of these crazy influxes of $10 million coming through before I figured out who I really was. And before I figured out what really matters to me. Because money can be such a fucking distraction, guys. Like it really can. I'm sure I'm not saying anything you guys don't already know. I mean, you can watch documentaries like Charlie Sheen's documentary. Wildly awesome, by the way. But you can see how, like, if you come into a lot of money before you've really developed who you are and what really matters to you, you can just go down a weird path. Now, again, all experience is valid in the eyes of Creator, okay? We're in a dream here anyway. But for me, I'm so grateful that my soul led me to becoming abundant from within, to becoming abundant in connection, to becoming abundant in purpose, to becoming abundant in courage and these kind of things before I ever got the crazy millions of dollars or whatever. Because as I'm sitting at this retreat, it's about probably 1 a.m. We definitely stayed up late. I'll tell you guys a game I play that you guys can take on if you want. But, we're hanging out and I'm just looking around and we're all just looking at each other like, dude, this is it. Like if the world would end right now, I would die so fucking happy. Do I want it to end right now? Hell no. Right? I enjoy the dream. That's why I'm here. But at the same time, like, I don't really need anything. I already won the game. Like, I got the right people around me. I know who I am. I know who I'm also not. I know what I'm becoming. I also know how to have grace with myself. I know how to love myself. I know how to be self-aware enough to realize when I'm burning the candle at both ends and yada, yada, yada. And that shit really matters to me. I know how to have fun, which is the most important thing to me. As I've gotten more into being an adult, I've realized just how many fucking adults don't know how to have fun. Like it's actually an epidemic, guys. Like the real pandemic may be the humans that don't know how to have fun, that have completely forgotten how to have fun. And that's one of the things I really pride myself on because for years, I thought I didn't have good work ethic and all these things because I was silly. I'm naturally silly. And now I see that being one of my power zones. We all have our own power zones, right? And I get helped by so many of my friends and family's power zones. There's a lot of things I'm not the best at. And one of the things that I know I'm best in the world at is being hilarious, is being silly, is making people laugh. And that was one of the things I got reflected back to me at the retreat by a lot of people. It's just like, hey, man, being around you feels really light. It feels really fun. And that's what Chris and I always talk about at Breathe With Cannabis. It can be fun. Like, yes, we can hold space if someone really has an emotional response, starts breaking down crying. We welcome that. Let's go. But that's not the only way that emotional release looks, right? It can also look like hysterical laughter. Laughter where you literally don't know if you're going to die from not being able to breathe in between laughing. And so one of the games that I mentioned I was going to tell you guys that I learned through my good buddy and someone who I coached with for a couple of years, this guy, Angelo Cisco. Shout out to Angelo for being a fucking gem of a human being. But I remember we were at the lake house with Mark England. And this is another way, like, why I want to share this story is things that I thought were maybe a negative about me that actually ended up becoming a positive. And I'm saying this not to talk about me, but to share this with you guys, because maybe somewhere right now you're where I was. Like you have this obsession with this thing that you think is bad, And maybe it's not all bad, okay? Maybe it's not good or bad in general because duality doesn't exist, but you'll get where I'm going with this, all right? So I've always been a night owl, all right? And, when I was a kid, I would stay up till 5 in the morning all the time just because, okay? And I realized, as soon as I got into business and got a little older, I was like, I cannot do that. I don't want to do that anymore. But I am grateful that I have that ability to send it and stay up late. And I'll tell you guys why. Because, I got into, when I was about 20 and I got really into holistic health and things like that, I became obsessed with doing everything the quote unquote right way, drinking the exact amount of water that they said I needed to drink per day, eating the exact right foods, following exactly what someone else told me was the right food for me, prioritizing my sleep, getting the Aura Ring, intermittent fasting, like all these things. And I ended up working myself into an OCD type tendency where, and I tell this story often too, I was that guy who, when we were going to a music festival where we were obviously going to be doing medicines for a couple of days anyway and staying up late and whatever, I would beg my friends to let me bring a fucking juicer in the car ride out there, which is like a 16-hour drive if you're going to Electric Forest. And no matter how hard you clean a juicer, when it sits in the hot sun, it's going to smell like broccoli farts, all right? And so here we are in this car driving 16 hours. And as we're stopping and, eating or whatever, the car is getting hot. It smells like broccoli in there. I was that guy because I was terrified of what's going to happen if I break my, my ritual of juicing every day. And a lot of the things I did at those ages were based on, I don't want to be in pain. I don't want to be in pain because I saw what happened with my mom and dad. And it's no diss against them. They grew up in a different time period where they were focused on having fucking food on the table because their parents came from the Great Depression. So I don't diss them at all for not being as aware of health as we are now, as we get to be now in this society. But I also got a great lesson from them of, hey, what happens if you don't take care and change your oil a lot? And so I'm very grateful to them for teaching me that lesson. And I will not let it be in vain. And that's what I was feeling at that age, but I was kind of coming at it from the wrong angle. Instead of being like, hey, what's the image I want to create? Like, how do I run towards the pleasure I want? Pleasure being health and fitness and whatever. It was, how do I not end up like my parents? And that is a big difference there, right? In dichotomy, getting away from pain, running towards pleasure. All right. That's why whenever I have a client saying, I don't want this, I'm like, cool, what do you want? Typically, if you ask someone what they don't want, they can give you a whole laundry list. And then if you ask them, well, what do you want? It's like crickets, right? And so, again, at the end of the day, I started falling into a lot of these things, right? Like, oh my God, I guess staying up late is just bad. I guess eating when I wake up is just bad, right? Like I started creating these classifications and conditions for myself. And I remember when I was at one of the lake house parties with Mark England, this was early on, probably 2021, I think, January. This is before I had just started Highly Optimized, or I'd had Highly Optimized going for about a year. I didn't really have a business yet. I just started the name and I was traveling my goddamn ass off, meeting a lot of people. And I remember at this lake house party, Angelo, Marcus Guerzi, and Ryan Bucciantini, who used to run a business called Alpha Hippie, they showed up. And right when they walked in, I could tell their energy was different. Like a lot of us, they were just kind of starting out, we were kind of hanging out, having fun. And they walked in with like professional gear. And I'm like, oh, these guys mean business. And so we ended up hanging out. And that first night, we're all hanging out. And Angelo, you had to be there at that phase. I mean, Angelo is just so smooth and got such a deep voice. And he's got like Italian mob boss energy. He's wearing this gangster-esque cardigan. And we're all hanging out. It's probably like 12:30, 1 in the morning. And so, again, like I'm like, hey, guys, I got to go to bed, prioritize my sleep, yada, yada. And we're all kind of talking about it. And Angela's like, well, hey, you guys can go to bed. I'm playing Last Man Standing. And I'm like, what's Last Man Standing? He's like, whenever I hang out with a new group, I want to be the last one that goes to bed on the first night. I'm like, why? And he's like, because the best conversations happen late at night. And he's like, yeah, will I be tired tomorrow? Sure. But you know what? 2 weeks from now, when I'm reintegrated into my life and life's normal and I'm going to bed at 10, waking up at 6, whatever it is, I'll look back at this and be grateful that I stayed up for these conversations. And in that moment, I was like, dude, that's why I've always liked staying up late. The best conversations happen then, the best memories, the best laughs, all the stuff that I really love happens late at night. And so in that moment, that was another like fracturing of this like OCD tendency that I had to be right all the time when it came to my diet and my fitness and my sleep and everything. I started realizing, wait a minute, What if this is much broader and more unconditional and more qualitative in nature than I had given it credit for? We look at these things as if like, I need to go to bed at a certain time, blah, blah, blah. You know what happens when you have a lot of that? Life gets fucking boring quick, okay? Especially if you don't know why you're doing it. Like, I go to bed early now because I like to wake up and play an hour and a half of guitar in the morning, and that is more exciting than going to bed late when Rach and I are just hanging. Unless we're in a really deep conversation or whatever. I also know that going to bed early most of the time, like I'd say about 90% of the time, leads to me feeling better. But I also now realize that, yeah, when I'm with my friends that I don't see that often, and especially like I'm in a new group or whatever, I can push it a little because I've built a race car. And for any of you guys that are out there chopping wood, carrying water, working out, doing all the fucking right things, always remember to take your fucking race car out and do a burnout every once in a while, okay? That's why we do all of this. Like, I love the race car analogy because my dad was into cars and it's such a thing. We'd meet a lot of people who had these $80,000, $90,000 cars. They were just garage queens. They never left the garage because they were terrified. What if it rains? Who cares? You bought a $90,000 car. You're not going to fucking drive it. What? The rain's not going to break it. And I get it. Like I'm a car guy too. I used to wash my car 3 times a day. All right. I told you guys, I used to have a lot of OCD tendencies. And so I get it. I totally get it. But also I remember the feeling that came from. It was like this trying to control and just like, if I knew it had rained out, like if I woke up in the morning and knew it rained and my car was out there, I would feel off inside until I could go clean it again. And that is not balanced, like to me anyway. That's not how I want to live my life. My guitars, for instance, like I have some very rare guitars. And part of me is like, do I just keep them at home? I'm like, fuck that. I'm going to gig them the second I get a gig. I'm going to bring them down to Virginia so my friends can play them. Like, that's why I bought them. All right. I didn't buy them so they could sit in a case all the time. I want to rip them. And if they get dinged, fuck it. One of my idols in guitar was Dimebag Darrell and still is. And that's a big part of it. He has his Dean from Hell, which you guys aren't metalheads and you probably are just like this guy speaking Chinese right now. But, he had this guitar that was like his prized possession. And it would get fucked up all the time. His guitar tech was walking across the stage one night, stepped right in the neck, snapped it in half. He's like, whatever, throw some super glue on it, get it back out there. And, again, now that guitar that Dimebag's gone is just a collection of memories. Every nick and ding, his guitar tech can tell a story about it. And so why would Dimebag try to keep it safe, right? Keep it safe, whatever, and avoid making memories? No, we don't take any of this shit with us anyway. And so that's been a big part of my journey over the last, like I'd say, 6 years. It's just realizing like, dude, why am I taking it so seriously? I'm not going to get out alive anyway. Let's just have some fun. I'm going to take it passionately, but I don't have to take it seriously. And that was a big part of it, And so, again, one of the interesting things too, as I kind of transition a little bit here in subject, what are we at in time? Perfect, 32 minutes. So you guys can tell I don't do this alone a lot. I'm like, I don't even know what time it is. I have no idea. But, at the end of the day, one of the things that I've, kind of led me into this whole simplistic life and whatever is how much fucking noise has been happening from the outside world recently. If you guys tuned into my episode with Brandon, we were both talking about how like we're just tuning all of it out at this point. And I know that can be very challenging for some people. It can also be challenging when you're the person that wants to tune out, but you're surrounded by people that want to keep tuning into the entertainment show. And that's been one of the things I've been really prioritizing. Is like, listen, there are things happening in the world that I don't support. I don't support war. I don't support violence. I don't support those things. But at the same time, I'm also not going to trick myself into thinking that by being smothered by this information and making social media posts that people need to change their ways, that that's going to really do anything. Because at the end of the day, it's really not, except it's going to get me into a completely upregulated state. And then I can't do what I'm actually here to do, which is help other people get out of upregulated states. And so, one of the things I wanted to share is just like, if you're feeling kind of pulled into a lot of like thirst traps in the world, right? And again, like when I call these things thirst traps, I'm not trying to discount the weight that a lot of these things feel. Murder, war, these things are fucking heavy, guys. All right. And at the same time, what would someone like Jesus say? It's all a dream. Wake up. It's okay. You're just dreaming. Again, the example I use of Grand Theft Auto is really how I look at this. When I'm playing Grand Theft Auto, let's say, and something happens in that game that's violent or whatever, I don't really give it a second thought because I know it's a game. Now, in obviously reality, it's a much more convincing game here. And I'm not dissing anyone for feeling an emotion. Like I feel emotions around this shit all the time. I wish it wasn't happening. It sucks. But I'm also aware that the best thing I can do is work on myself. Because if I work on myself, then I can access Christ consciousness. And that is what actually has the ability to change other people's hearts. Not by telling them, you need to do this, and definitely not by telling them, Jesus Christ would want you to do this. Jesus would never tell you to do anything. That's what a non-dualist is all about. But at the same time, what I imagine someone like Jesus's entire point of being here was to do is to allow us to wake up in the dream, not fall deeper into the dream. And that's the challenge, is a lot of these things, they bring up emotions that make it very convincing that, like, no, I have to say something about this. And I'm not saying that saying anything about it is bad. This is just my own personal point of view on it. Okay, so take what you like, throw away what you don't. I really don't care. But what I found for me is that going online and posting my own input on things like that just invites in a lot of really hurt people that want to then make me the bad guy. And what I've started to realize is I want to stay in my own lane, which is helping people wake up in the dream through either cannabis, through business, through sovereignty, through having fun, whatever that is my gift to the world. And that's what I'm best in the world at. And so I'm going to stick doing that. And so I want to ask you guys, what are you best in the fucking world at? And don't give me this shit about, oh, I don't think I'm the best in the world at anything. You are, okay? And if you haven't found it yet, it's also looking for you the same way you're looking for it. But there's something out there that you can do better than any person in the world. And that thing is your gift to humanity. When you express that fully, it has the opportunity to shift people's entire realities. You know, I've had multiple people do this for me. Paul Chek was one of them. Mark England was one of them. Hell, Aubrey Marcus is one of them. He showed me, like, hey, I could be a podcaster, right? Like, these people that, yes, you may look at someone like Paul Chek and say he's a holistic health coach. Look at Mark and say he's a mindset coach. Look at, you know, whoever it is, right? And say this about them. But they're doing much more than that, okay? The same way that, yes, I'm a cannabis coach, I'm a podcaster, I have these identities and these hats I wear. But really, the message underneath it is, guys, I'm literally no different than you. If I can pull this off, literally anyone can. Like, that's what I'm trying to teach everyone underneath everything. Is like, hey, look what happens when a very normal type of person goes out there and does this. Look at the mistakes I make. Look at the wins I have. Just evaluate everything. I try to never sugarcoat anything. You know, I try to never seem like I've got this all figured out. I fucking don't. But what I do have figured out is that I don't have figured it out. And if I don't care about having it figured out, if there's never a point where I'm going to think I need to have it figured out, then I kind of have figured it out, I think, based on what I choose to believe about reality. But I don't know. I really don't know. But what I do know is that I'm unapologetically sharing my life with you guys because I know what this did for me. When other people would share, when I would hear Paul talk about, you know, his journey of getting his first wife pregnant at 18 and not knowing what the fuck he was going to do, and then going out and trying to get a job and working his ass off when really his wife wanted them to be home more, but he thought being a provider was all about just making money. And like, I get to hear, like, this guy was a normal dude before he was the Paul Chek that I idolized. He's just a normal dude. Same with Aubrey Marcus, right? Working for Fleshlight. What a hilarious script for God to run. But, you know, working at Fleshlight, wanted to start his own company. Joe Rogan believed in him, gave him a shot. He not wasted, but he spent most of the money trying to figure it out. It didn't work. And then boom, last minute it worked. And now everyone sees him as this, you know, celebrity, but he wasn't that all the time. And I'm fascinated with those kind of stories because it's the hero's journey. And that's what I'm really showing you guys in real time here. It's like, I have no idea where this path is going to go. I thought I did for a while. And then when I got on Aubrey Marcus, I was like, I have no idea what has the wheel here other than God. So all I'm going to do is focus on being the best version of myself I can. Focus on, you know, setting my sights on something I feel matters and then forgetting about it. Because God's going to bring me exactly the best things for me at the best times. And some of those things can be challenges. Some of those things are gifts in weird wrapping paper, as I like to say. But at the same time, if I'm focused on just feeling the most euphoric, the most inspirational, the most me I possibly can, then I really, truly believe and know for myself subjectively, everything's going to work out. And that's why I've chosen to not entertain the outside world as much as I once did, because it just wasn't getting me anywhere. The results spoke for themselves. I was just getting stressed out. I started getting into that whole, like, God, humanity's fucked, which what is humanity? It's myself. So what am I seeing out there? I'm seeing a lot of the ways that I distract myself away from what I'm meant to be doing here in my mission. Because at the end of the day, If I go out there and spend my time talking on social media about a bunch of issues that I really know nothing about, but I do it from the guise of, oh, people should feel bad or whatever, and I try to, do that, then what's going to happen as a result of that? I'm not doing the podcast. I'm not teaching cannabis. I'm not teaching people to open their hearts. And at the same time, I'm just getting people angry for no reason, because again, no matter what you do online, you're going to get people angry with you. But for me, I really feel the best thing I can do is help people wake up. And so that's what I'm doing. And that's the best thing I do for myself. Best thing I can also do for others is help them wake up. And as I do that, and as I focus more on that, the world I see out there is a lot more beautiful. Yeah, there are a lot of challenges happening. There are a lot of things going on. But you know what I'm also seeing? I'm seeing these times right now that are turbulent, that are challenging. I'm seeing them wake a lot of people up. I'm seeing them allow a lot of people to tap back into what really matters, just like what has been happening to me the past 6 years and happened even deeper over the last couple of weeks. I'm seeing a lot of beauty in an otherwise very challenging time. And I'm only able to see that because I'm focusing on that within myself. How can I feel so happy, so joyous, even in the face of a lot of challenging things happening? How can I know that even though we're in the part of the movie where it looks like the guy's never going to get the girl back, metaphorically, of course, that he's going to get her back and it's all going to be okay? Like, how can I focus on this movie not being a horror movie, but being a Hallmark movie? That's an interesting one I've never thought about. How do I make sure that I'm doing what I need to do every day, that when I look out there, I see a Hallmark movie, not a horror movie? That I might use in actually a post. That's a pretty funny one. So, at the end of the day, like, if you're someone out there who's been feeling this pressure too, I feel it. I'm out there with you guys. I feel this shit. If you've been feeling it, reminder, like, you don't have to go tune into it all the time. You can be informed. You don't have to be smothered, and at the end of the day, like, this really is a time, based on what my oracle, aka Rachel, says to me, this is really a time. And I've been feeling this too, where it's like, it's an internal time. It's really a time where all the distractions are trying to get you to look out there, look at this. Oh my God, I get so upset about that. Oh, what's happening over here? And it's a thirst trap. Like, the more you go within, the more you notice what's going on, the more you maybe create boundaries or discernment, but you don't focus there. You stay aware there, but not focused. The more you focus on in here, and the more you create awareness in here, the better you're going to be equipped to handle out there. And by equipped, I don't mean to go out there and fight fire with fire. I mean to show up in Christ consciousness. And that's what a lot of people don't understand about religion, right? I have a good buddy, Aaron Abke. A lot of you guys know him. I've had him on the podcast before. Shout out to Aaron. Fucking awesome. Love you, bro. And, he deals with this a lot. He was going up against this guy, Wes. I don't know Wesley at all. I have nothing bad to say about him, but he had a different point of view than Aaron, for sure. And I very much agree with Aaron's point of view, just personally. I'm not saying he's right, but he's right for me, that this is all a dream. And that Christ, if you think about the story of Jesus, whether or not you believe it's a real story or fiction, doesn't really matter. If you believe in the Course in Miracles version, when he was put on the cross and had stakes driven through him, he didn't feel any pain. And he didn't feel any pain because he didn't have any guilt. And even when he was getting stakes driven through him, he still held the people that were driving the stakes into him in love. And that's what Christ consciousness really is. And there's a lot of people out there, not to go on a slight tangent here, but there's a lot of people out there that will say, I'll make a post about cannabis and someone will say, Jesus died for your sins. How dare you? Blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, hey, buddy, you're not showing up as Christ right now, even though you're preaching that Christ would be upset with me. Christ would never be upset with me, because that would include emotion and that would include making it real. But, again, a lot of people are very sure about what they're not really sure about. They actually know nothing about it. And so at the end of the day, if I don't sit and work on myself, if I go out there and get cut off, or I go out there and see someone angry at what's happening in, I don't know, some country that I won't name because I don't know if it'll get censored. If I see someone out there and I come at them with, like, if they try to react to me and I come at them with that same kind of energy, what am I really fucking teaching them? I fell right back into the same thing they're doing. And I'm supposed to not like what they're doing, right? Like, I'm supposed to say, oh, I don't believe in that. But then I meet them with the same energy, and it's fucking hard, guys. It's hard not to react to this shit. It's hard when you're out there and you're seeing someone say some shit that feels silly to say, and you feel that dog coming out of you. But that's not, an eye for an eye makes the whole world blind. What I have really focused on is when someone leaves a disempowering comment on one of my posts, is to see them as just a hurt person. And remember those times that I was hurt. And even though I might not have gone and left a comment on someone, I know what that feeling's like. I know what it's like to hurt. I know what it's like to have pain and not know how to get out of it. And so I'll just send them back like, hey, man, or hey, woman, whatever, whoever it is. It seems like you're hurting, sending you love. And that's what I'll do. And it's funny because when I first started doing this, it was really hard for me to do because there's a shadow part of me that wants to like prove people wrong and things like that. I've had to really work through a lot of that because there is no right or wrong. So I'm no more right than they are or wrong than they are. And so as I worked through that part of me, I realized that all I was looking for in the moments where I got into that in the past was the same kind of thing. Someone to meet me and not play into my smallness, not see me for who I thought I was, but see me for who I really was. See me for that version of me that's like just the hurting version that just needs a hug metaphorically, And a lot of times when someone will leave a comment like that, and I'll come back genuinely, not sarcastically, with like, hey man, it seems like you're hurting. Like, I hope you're okay. A lot of times they'll DM me and be like, hey, I really appreciate that. I'm really sorry. I was having a bad day and I took it out on you. And, you seem like a cool person, whatever. And I've had great conversations with a lot of these people, and it's really helped me change my tune because, again, I've been that person before. Okay. I never went on someone's profile and commented. It just wasn't my style, but I've done it in my own way, and again, how would I want to be treated in that? That's to me what Christ consciousness is. It's like seeing behind the veil and not allowing your emotions to get the best of you and not allowing your ego to get the best of you, really. Not to think you're wronged just because someone is putting their unconscious guilt on you. But, again, if I study all this shit and I think I know anything about any of this, why would I ever play into that with them? Would I want someone to play into that with me? Like, would I want someone who calls himself a coach or whatever to be in the comments like, yeah, fuck you too, because blah, blah, blah. Like, no. I'm not going to hire a coach who I see has no emotional fucking regulation. And so at the end of the day, that was a big part for me as well. Is just realizing like, yeah, you know what? Like the best thing I can do is work on myself and really focus on staying centered enough that when hurt people come to me, I can show up in love no matter what they try to throw at me. This doesn't mean I don't put up a boundary. This doesn't mean if someone continues to spout off, I don't hit the block button, but I show up in love. I say, hey, I'm not gonna believe this version of you that's coming out. I know who you really are underneath that and who you are as a beautiful person. I'm not going to allow this hurt you have to jade my point of view of you. I'm going to give you an opportunity to just, hey, you know what? I was having a bad day. It's fine. All good. And even if you don't, still tell me I'm an asshole and fuck off and whatever. Cool. I'll block you, but I'll still have love for you in your heart because I've also been that person before too. I've also been the person that when Rachel tries to apologize for me, I want to dig in deeper. I know what that's like. So real compassion is not just like, oh, you seem like you're hurting. So, okay, I'll give you the benefit of the doubt. Real compassion is being honest and courageous enough to say, I've also been in that role before. And I'm not going to be high and mighty enough to not admit that I've been there too. I've had really bad times and maybe I took it out on the wrong person. I'm going to give them an opportunity and maybe we create an awesome friendship out of it. Like that's happened. It's really happened. I've had many people that have become students later on tell me the first time I saw your content, man, triggered the fuck out of me, X'd out of your page, never wanted to look at you again. And then you kept popping back up and something told me just don't block this guy. Even though I don't like his content, I just, whatever. And then just one post allowed them to see like, oh, shit, okay, like actually I kind of agree with that. Let me see what else this guy's saying. And they end up being students of mine. And it becomes a laughing thing, Fuck, it's happened to me. I've worked with people that have triggered me, God forbid. And at the same time, a lot of those people have helped me a lot. When I worked with Angelo, that guy is super fucking masculine. He did not take any fucking shit. And if I missed one thing, he would come at me like, yo, what the fuck? And in those moments, I was like, thank you. That's what I need. Like, I need someone who's going to hold me to that line. And so that's the kind of coach I aim to be, is someone who holds that line, who sees who my client is looking to become and knows, doesn't think, but knows that at some point they're going to fall into their smallness again. They're going to come to an appointment and say, oh, well, I didn't get that thing done, blah, 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 because of this XYZ reason. And I can say, cool, it seems like this isn't a priority for you. Would that be accurate to say? And challenge them on that. So when they say, yeah, it is, I'm like, well, then why wasn't it done? You told me this was important for you. Why didn't it get done? I'm not mad at you. I could give two shits. It's not my life. But you said it's important for you. The higher self version of you wants this in, and you're doing this other thing. So what's going on here? Do we need to course correct? What's happening? So, again, this is just a lot of things that have been going through my head, guys. Hence why I wanted to do a solo cast. And I'm looking to see if anything else on here. I think I've kind of gone over most things I had on my list, but I'll tell you guys a couple cool things that I have upcoming just in case you guys are interested. We have the sexual mastery. I don't know if we're calling it intimacy mastery. We might have done it that way, but it really is the sexual mastery workshop in Breathe With Cannabis coming up in October. That's going to be really fun. If you guys haven't joined the collective yet, it's literally $33. I've made it as simple as possible. But also, you can also get a 7-day free trial. Okay. So if you're balling on the budget, just wait to sign up until within 7 days of the ceremony. You can hop in and get it for free. At the end of the day, like, I've been that person, all right, also, who has signed up for, I don't know, probably 30 different Amazon Prime accounts when I was like 19 or 20, get a new one every month to get the free month of Prime. So if that's how you got to do it, you got to hustle. I'm not going to knock it. All right. But I want you guys to be able to come experience this stuff. That's why we do that. Like, that whole business's point of view is just get healing and remembering to as many people as possible. So if you're in the collective, you want to bring a friend, just have them hop on the fucking screen with you. Okay. We're not going to charge you. We're not going to be weird about it. We're really just looking to bring as many people into this as possible, because it's so fucking fun. Like, if you haven't experienced it, guys, oh my God, please just sign up for a free trial next time we're doing one and come experience it. All right. We got nothing to hide. I'm not looking for your money. I just really want you guys to come experience that. It's so much fucking fun and it's powerful. We just did, like I said, at the retreat, 3 nights of it. I brought 12 of my strains plus keef and hash that had at least 45 different strains in it over the past 2 years of growing. We mixed it all together. I had Will, our professional chef, make cannabis butter. I brought RSO out there. We were doing so much different stuff, from fitness workshops, connecting with cannabis, to the breath work, to emotional somatic processing with cannabis, and also a lot of things without cannabis too. And it was a fucking blast. And, again, a lot of these people have been in our collective. They've been coming to our ceremonies before we had a community around it. They've been in the Limitless program we host, the 8-week program we have within the collective. It's like a little bit, higher of a tier, but we do that, a couple times a year. And, again, this is what it's all about, guys. Like, I remember what it was like being the kid sitting in my mom's bedroom, wondering when the hell I was going to find all my people. And, fortunately, I started actually putting myself in these situations. I started going out to Paul Check's house, going down to Mark England's house. And now I have a whole new community, and it's awesome. And I help create community. So if you're out there being like, hey, I kind of feel like I'm out in the middle of the ocean on a life raft alone, that's why I did this. Okay. I know what it's like. And you can be the person that then tells other people about it if you want, or starts your own fucking thing. All right. Like, that's what I want to see for all you guys, is whatever that high and amazing just experience for life is for you, whatever that goal is, whatever that dream is, let's make it a reality. Like, that's what I'm personally here to do, whether it's just through you listening to me, through my podcast, whether it's you being a student of mine and Breathe With Cannabis, let's say, whether it's a client, whether it's just a friend that messaged me on DMs or whatever. My ultimate goal is to be the example of someone who literally failed forward, had no fucking idea what he was doing, but still did it, still found the strength to move through a lot of weird shit, a lot of, patterns of, I don't even know where to start. Like, a lot of patterns of insecurity, a lot of patterns of lack of confidence, a lot of patterns of smallness. So literally, when I say, guys, if I can do it, anyone can do it. I'm not just saying that. Like, literally, guys, if I can do it, any of you can do it. And I say that because if you're someone listening to this episode and you're hearing that voice and you're, no, it sounds good for Ryan, but I couldn't do it. I'm telling you, that voice is bullshit. I listened to that fucking thing for 4 goddamn years before I ever realized how bullshit it was. I mean, fuck, I listened to it most of my life, but it really became apparent when I got to be about 20. Maybe about 21, actually, when I graduated college, 21, 22. Because then I was kind of like, what do I do from here? What do I do? And I just didn't feel like I had the courage to go do anything. So I was like, oh, I'll just figure it out tomorrow. And then fucking years went by, guys. Okay. So maybe you're someone who also has to have years go by for you to recognize that. That's all well and good. Maybe you will be. But if you're not, this is your sign. Okay. It's a trap. Don't fall into that fucking voice. It's bullshit. And it's actually there. It doesn't even want to win. It's actually there so you challenge it. So you find the part of you that's a bad motherfucker that goes, I'm not fucking believing this part of me anymore because it's goddamn bullshit. And I cannot believe I ever let myself believe that. It's kind of like when, if you guys have ever seen, if you haven't seen this, go check it out. There was a video that went around in 2020, 2021, when all of us were doing a lot of different programs that were very similar to this. The video is called Cute House, okay, on YouTube. Go look it up. In that, it's a whole thing. But basically at the end, there's these 2 guys, and this one guy wants to own that he's cute. All right. I know it sounds weird, but you got to watch it. It's fucking hilarious. And it's like a bunch of masculine men trying to, like, no, I am fucking cute. And the other guy's like, no, you're not. You're not cute. You're not fucking cute. And he's doing it because he wants the guy to be like, I'm fucking cute. Right. And own it. That's what that inner critic voice is there for. We have completely gotten this astray. I completely got this astray, thinking the inner critic is just trying to shit talk me, whatever. No, it's just my best friend in disguise. It's the only part of me that's willing to try to break me down for me to find my true fucking power. And that's what the inner critic is inside of you as well. And I'm not going to allow any of you to fall into that if you're around me. That's my personal kind of yearning when it comes to when I'm around people. You know, if I see you doing something and I feel like you're playing in your smallness, I'm going to ask you about it. And that's because I wouldn't be where I was if people didn't do that to me. You know, when I was going around to these first communities and bringing my cannabis out, I didn't even know I wanted to teach cannabis. I was making some YouTube videos about cannabis, but it wasn't anything I'm doing now. I wasn't doing anything like this. You know, I would kind of gloss over, I brought some cannabis and I grew it and blah, blah, blah. And they're like, no. Tell me more about that because I've never had cannabis like this. And I'm like, oh, stop. It's okay. And they're like, no, dude, this is seriously the best cannabis I've ever had. What the fuck are you doing? And those things allowed me to be like, whoa, I've never thought of my cannabis like that. And it wasn't from an ego point of like, fuck yeah, I have the best cannabis. It was more like, holy shit, someone sees me in that role. Like, why can't I see myself like that? And that set me on a lot of like inner quests of like, yeah, when did I stop learning to fucking shine bright? And that was like, I mean, a huge thing that's been unraveling for years now, about 6 years. And the other night, what I'll say in kind of completion here is it clicked. It finally clicked. I realized so much. You know, for years now, I've felt, I don't know, maybe insecure around like, you know, being the full version of myself. And I didn't really know why. And I made it mean something about me. For years, I've been like, oh, maybe I'm not fully developed my masculine. Maybe I'm not really a man. Like these are the thoughts that went through my head. And what I actually fucking realized was, no, I'm actually just afraid to shine too fucking bright because it might offend people. And so trust me when I say you may be going through that too. You may be terrified of what's going to happen when you actually unleash your full fucking power. But you know what? You know what I have to say to that? There's your people and not your people. Your people will love you no matter who the fuck you are, right? Unless you're a crazy person, of course, but they'll love you for who you really are, whereas your people will never love you, okay? They might have love for you, but they're not going to be your people. And why would you ever spend time trying to convince not your people to be your people when you can just focus on your people? And so that was a big part of, I mean, literally just a couple of days ago, looking at my Jupiter placements with Rachel and connecting with some cannabis, where it all fucking clicked. I would rather discount myself to myself than shine too bright and possibly risk offending others. And that's what I call emotional slavery. I learned this throughout my life through different family members, that when I looked around at the world, one thing I understood that I didn't really logically understand, but it was unconscious that I understood it, was that a lot of people can't handle a lot. Like a lot of people are very fragile. And so when there would be times where maybe I should put up a boundary, maybe I should tell someone like, that's not okay, I would imagine, maybe they can't handle that, so I'll just take the brunt of it. Now, first of all, they probably could have handled it a lot of the time. I was making an excuse for them that actually stopped their development, so that wasn't a good thing. But also, I was shooting myself in the foot, not being a fucking man, not putting my boundaries out there, not stating this is my decision. This is who I am. And if you like it, great. If you don't, also great. But I'm not fucking changing. And so that's a big part of the energy I'm in now. I mean, you guys can feel it, I imagine, right? Like I'm the happy-go-lucky guy, I'm lighthearted, but I'm also a fucking savage, all right? I said this in my last solo cast too. And I love that part of me. I love that part of me that wants to challenge other people to be the best versions of themselves. I love that part of me that wants to work out with other guys and be like, wow, let's push ourselves. Like I love that part of me too. And I am not keeping that fucking part of me in anymore, because I've realized the only people that don't like that are the people that I don't care to have in my reality anyway. I might love them from afar, but they're just not my people and I'm not their people. It's okay. It's all good, right? We're not going to be liked by everyone. But the people that I fucking love, they love that part of me. It's one of the main parts they love, right? And so at the end of the day, what am I doing here? And that's to me how life is so funny, right? It's like literally I have restricted some of my favorite parts of myself coming out that are also the favorite parts of other people I know that love me, that I love, all because I've been worried about what people that I don't like and don't like me would be worried about, you know? It's just hilarious. Like life is one big paradox. So anyway, guys, I love you guys so much. Thank you for tuning in. Thank you for listening to me ramble for about 60 minutes here. Like I said, Breathe With Cannabis is coming up this next month. Make sure to check that out. I'll have it in the show notes. We will be having a couple more workshops come up for amazing ideas for coaching with cannabis. I've really been passionate around bringing more people into that world, and we're enrolling for our next cohort that starts November 25th. So if you're interested about that, you can always reach out to me in a DM, or if you do have my email, you can reach out there, or you can just come to one of the next free workshops and ask me any questions you have there. But other than that, guys, I love you all so much. I hope you have an amazing rest of your day. Hopefully you're listening to this on Friday. If you're not, whatever day of the week it is, have a great one. And until next time, may the source be with you guys to infinity and beyond. I'm going to go put some beneficial bugs into my grow. All right, guys, much love. Peace.